Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Juubi Naruto was in My Little Pony. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by WARRIORANGELN7 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. So without further ado. Alan Sai. The 10-tailed dragon. Desolation, as far as the eye could see all was destroyed, the charred landscape still smoldering from the heat of the explosion. It would seem that a great battle was fought here not long ago. The only thing left standing was Tsunade's Senju. Why Naruto, why? Was all she could think. She wept for what seemed like hours, all the while thinking those same thoughts. She mourned the loss of her friend grandson. And most recently her savior. Savior from himself. Because the destruction wasn't from a battle, it was from a one-man army slaughter of the Hidden Leaf village. Flashback. There stood Obit looking battered and beaten. Standing in front of the Jido Meizo trying to think of a way to beat his opponent. The person who opposed him was a man with silver Senju-style armor, the likeness of a dragon etched into the front of the armor. He had blonde hair that is hip length and bangs that framed his face, that had a trio of whisker marks on his checks. On his back is Madara's famous battle fan. But the most striking feature about him is his eyes. They were the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, they are pure black and in the middle, a glowing red cracked circle with 3 spinning red orbs on it. ANCCR4 zipped profile for the image. The look on his face was what scared Obito the most though. The look on the silver dragon's face was one of boredom. How can he be bored? Obito thought. I'm throwing everything I got at him and he's still not even breathing hard. Obito decided that although he was tired he would feign that he had energy, so he stood and began to taunt the silver dragon. Hey! He yelled. Demon. He got no response however, as the silver dragon was looking around passively. The silver dragon was looking around Konohagakure, seeing his friends and the dragons finish off the work he had started with the white Zetsu. He was furious, not only had Obito attacked his village, but had done so when he and the dragons were away on a SSS rank mission. The only reason they got there on time was that he had set up an instant messaging system of sorts. He put the Horatian seal on some scrolls to teleport to him if chakra was put into the seal. And his Kamui, that allowed him to teleport them all there leaving the note. Konohagakure, now decimated, was all around him and it was entirely his fault. Obito saw that he was being ignored and decided to attack. He blurred out of the visible spectrum for a second before appearing next to Silver and tried to engage him in a battle of Taijutsu. Silver looked at Obito and uttered. Shinra Tensei. Obito flew back and crashed through multiple walls before stopping. Coughing up blood he used Kamui and again was in front of the Jido Meizo. Crap, there is too much internal bleeding on, I'm going to die. Then Obito had a moment of clarity. Well, he yelled to Silver. It's the end, Naruto, if I can't rule this world then no one can. He charged up an attack and threw it, but not at the newly revealed Naruto. The jutsu smashed into the Jido Meizo and it shattered. Now, without a catalyst to this world the tailed beasts' minds will leave them and they will rampage across the earth and destroy everything. Obito laughed a psychotic kind of laugh until he felt something painful enter his gut. Obito looked down to see Naruto's hand inside his chest. Obito coughed up even more blood and then fell over dead. Naruto turned from the body and started towards the other tailed beasts who were still trying to hold on to what was left of their minds. I'm so sorry you guys. Naruto said. I'm so sorry but there is only one way I can help you. Tears streaming down his cheeks. Over the years Naruto had befriended all of the Biju and Jinchuriki, so what he was about to do next pained him beyond belief. He had to seal them within himself to stop their rampage from happening, but first he activated the Horatian seal in Hinata's ring and linked it to the note that the dragons had received earlier. And in a flash she was gone. Now knowing his love was safe, he made his final jutsu hands, weaving hand signs that nobody had seen before, shouting. Yin-Yang release. Ultimate sealing art of the 6 paths. The sealing would take 2 hours. And so he yelled to the shinobi of Konohagakure. Run for your lives, don't ask questions, just run. The remaining shinobi took heed and ran as fast and as far as they can. And for the last moments of his normal life, Naruto was alone, well almost. Hey, Kid Kurama's voice resonated through Naruto's head. Hey Kurama. Thought Naruto. The 8 tails was almost done being sealed in Naruto's body. Some small pebbles started to lift off of the ground near Naruto. It's a noble thing you're doing here, kid, saving my kin. Even with the consequences. Ye thought Naruto, I'm only sorry that I couldn't set them free. You have no choice, that Obito bastard destroyed the statue before you could make them a proper body. Bigger objects started lifting into the air and started to spin around him, as if he was the center of a great vortex. Naruto's form began to slightly glow, becoming brighter every second as the secondary set of seals began to activate. The 8 tails was just over halfway sealed. Naruto sighed. I know, but I still broke my promise to them. I know that they would rather be sealed than some mindless beast. Several minutes later. As the Eight Tails' final tale began to be absorbed, Naruto looked back on his life. It was full of hardships and strife, but each one had made him stronger, building him up to the man that he is today. His thoughts turned to Hinata. The love of his life and the only thing that kept him sane throughout his insane life. She kept him on the straight and narrow, especially when he became stronger than everyone. He was going to be called God until Hinata beat that thought out of him. Well, the sealing is almost done. Kurama was right. The last tale was almost absorbed. He had seconds now. And when it is, I will seal myself on the moon for however long it takes to get control of my new power. Naruto thought of the implication of that, all of that time spent in almost total isolation, and it scared him. Kurama, sensing this, said this. I'll seal your consciousness inside me so you don't even notice the pain of adjusting to the power, nor feel the time pass. But it couldn't be because Hinata came back. Hinata's POV hours earlier. Hinata popped up at the letter. At first she was disoriented. Then it all came back to her. Oh no you don't. Exclaimed Hinata as she started to sprint in the direction of Konoha. Naruto, you idiot, she thought, you're not supposed to use that sealing ever. Tears streaming down her face. She remembered what Naruto told her about the sealing technique. Flashback within a flashback, it's a flashbackception. Naruto sat looking at the beautiful night sky with Hinata, not doing anything but enjoying each other's company. Suddenly Naruto spoke up. Hinata, she looked at him with concern. It was very rare for him to not use her nickname, as he only did so when he wanted to be taken very seriously. Naruto kept looking at the moon for a few more moments and then looked down at Hinata, deep blue meeting pale lavender. Hinata, I fear that with Obito amassing forces and the Biju that he will get bolder in his attacks. Hinata, having the same thoughts recently, just nodded her head. And let Naruto continue. And as such I will do everything within my power to stop him and save you. He sighed. There is a sealing technique that will allow the caster to have all of the Biju inside him herself, having them become the next Juubi. Hinata gasped, but Naruto continued on in his explanation. The Biju would remain conscious beings, but will lose all their power. That sounds like it has major drawbacks to it, Hinata interrupted. Naruto shook his head and continued. Not many, the caster needs to have a fully unlocked Rinnegan, transplanted or not it doesn't matter. But after that they get sealed into the moon for however long it takes to get control of their power. Hinata started to see where this was going and yelled, no Naruto, I will not allow you to use that kind of jutsu upon yourself. Naruto began to argue back, but he knew that he would never win this argument. Alright Hina-chan, I won't use it. Hinata looked at him suspiciously before quickly dropping the subject and continuing on their stargazing. 1 hour later. Hinata was asleep in Naruto's arms and he was still very much awake. Naruto thought about their conversation earlier and as he looked at his love, he was determined to do anything to keep her safe and happy. No matter what, even if it be against your will, I'm going to protect you. Hinata stirred in her sleep and turned away from Naruto. He smiled and gave her a kiss on the back of her head. Sweet dreams, Hina-chan. Flashbackception end. As Hinata ran through the forest at top speed, purple hair streaming behind her, ignoring the shinobi who told her to run away, per Naruto's order. As she approached the village she saw a bright light. Moving towards the bright light she arrived just in time. Naruto saw her and she felt a swirling sensation, then nothing. Naruto's POV. When Naruto saw Hinata he was outraged, not at her but at himself. Damn it, I knew that she would try to come back, why didn't I seal them quicker? Naruto knew that what came next in the sealing would be deadly to her, so in the last instant, he pulled her into his pocket dimension with a Kamui. Kurama, what'll happen to her if my conscience is sealed into you? Naruto asked. Your pocket dimension will collapse with her still inside. Naruto's mind wheeled for an answer for the problem he was facing. I need to save her, but how? And he found the answer. Kurama, I know that you can get in my dimension, do the same sealing that you were going to do on me on her. But you will be exposed to all that time and pain of accustomizing to your new power. I don't care, Kurama. Do it. Naruto said, no longer telepathically communicating with Kurama. Then the nine-tailed Biju reached into Naruto's dimension and after weaving some hand signs yelled. Biju sealing art. Nine-tailed space-time preservation. Hinata felt no pain, only a warm orange glow until she fell asleep. And so Kurama sealed Hinata, and just in time. The bright light emanating from Naruto became brighter than the sun, and the vortex of energy felt the same as a Category 5 hurricane. The sealing now finished, Naruto shot off the ground in an explosion of power that inadvertently destroyed everything within a 20-mile radius. As Naruto shot towards the moon all he could think was. Goodbye everyone, don't forget me. Naruto landed in the largest crater on the moon, right next to the Juubi's dormant body. The seal then absorbed that too. A pure black force field 5 miles in diameter surrounded him in the crater. That's when the pain started, the never-ending pain. But it was all worth it. because his hinata was safe. Flashback end. He didn't die a hero and has grown to see himself as a villain. But sometimes a villain is just what the world needs. It was the day before the summer sun celebration and Twilight Sparkle is riding on a flying golden pulled rickshaw that is being operated by two angel royal guards, their energy wings, her assistant Spike reading the letter from Princess Celestia one more time. There is more to a young person's life than studying. So I'm sending you to supervise the preparations for the summer sun celebration in this year's location, Appleville. And I have an even more essential task for you to complete, make some friends. Twilight groaned at her assistant. Hey, look at the bright side, Twilight, the princess arranged for you to stay at a library. Doesn't that make you happy? Twilight was about to answer in the negative but then had a great idea and perked up. Yes it does. You know why? Because I'm right. I'll check on the preparations as fast as I can, then go to the library to find some proof of Nightmare Moon's return. Twilight said as the flying vehicle landed softly and came to a halt at their destination. Twilight and Spike stepped off and stretched for a moment before Twilight thanking, as well as dismissing the royal guards. Come on Twilight, Princess Celestia asked you to make some friends. You should at least try, who knows, maybe the people of Appleville have interesting things to say. Spike said enthusiastically as a girl with bouncy pink hair walked up. Oh, alright, hi there. Both Canterlot residents were surprised when the girl made quite the loud gasping noise and proceeded to yell to seemingly no one. Oh no. It's that day already? But I'm not prepared for it yet. The girl then sprinted off leaving the two city people in her dust. That sure was interesting. Twilight said caustically. But I have better things to do than make friends. What's first on the princess's checklist? Spike took the list out of his mail carrier-like bag. The bag had been a gift from Twilight's old full-sitter Cadence after he discovered his ability to send messages via green fire that he could breathe. The list said that the first place that he needed to go was Sweet Apple Acres and they were the people who were catering the festival this year. Apple trees were everywhere. That was a very basic way to describe the setting that was before the two. Simple but very true. Now I know why this place is called Appleville, this orchard could fit two of the actual towns in it. Twilight observed. Spike was about to comment when he heard a grunt of exertion and several small thumps. Moving through the trees, the duo then saw a girl with blonde hair tied back with a red ribbon, the top of her head covered by a Stetson. The blonde got in a loose stance, reared her right hand back and let it loose on the tree's bark, making a solid thunk. The tree shook. The entire apple contents of the tree fell from the branches into the strategically placed baskets below. The blonde girl wiped a small amount of sweat from her brow. Twilight cleared her throat to get the farmer's attention. Applejack, I assume? It worked and the Stetson turned towards the pair and leaf green eyes widened. With great speed the blonde closed the distance between them and greeted the two by firmly grasping Twilight's hand and shaking. Howdy there, stranger, name's Applejack, welcome to Sweet Apple Acres. What can I do you for? Twilight Sparkle. I'm here to check up on the food preparations for the summer sun celebration. Well, alrighty then, I'll just get everyone here. Soup's on everyone. Twilight had to cover her ears just to protect them from the eardrum shattering yell. She could only imagine how Spike felt, enhanced hearing and all. She checked back to her companion and saw that he was passed out on the ground. She picked him up using her magic and tethered him to her. Later. The apples were killers, kindness and delicious food, their cloak and dagger. Twilight was now sporting the biggest turkey belly that she had ever experienced. Spike began to stir from his forced slumber. This drew a relieved moan from Twilight as lugging around the young teen, even with magic, was getting tiring. He opened his reptilian eyes to see his longtime mentor and friend above him. What happened? You were taken off guard by that surprisingly loud yell and you fainted. Oh great, I thought that I was over that kind of thing a long time ago. Twilight heard the slight pout in the young teen's voice and tried to comfort him. Oh now don't be like that, Spike, even I could only hear ringing a minute after and then was subject to the many apologies of not only Applejack but her entire family. You are also don't have the stomachache of the century because of it. While the food was good, too much of a good thing can be bad. Spike's stomach took that time to voice its protest of its emptiness. At least you had some food. Last thing I ate was some fries back at Canterlot. Twilight then rummaged around in her backpack. Good thing that I saved a couple of apple fritters then. She said as she pulled said pastries out of her backpack and presenting them to her assistant. I really should invest in that hammer space spell that is so popular in Manhattan. It would make carrying things around easier. Spike said as he munched on his fritter. So who is next on the list? Spike finished the last of his first fritter and searched for the list. It says that the next person we need to see is an angel named Rainbow Dash. She's supposed to keep the clouds clear. Well, she isn't doing a very good job. Is she? Look out. There was a blur made up of many colors that slammed into the city mage and sent her soaring into a mud puddle. Sorry. Let me help you. The female angel blasted off into the sky and returned a second later with a cloud fat with rain. Placing it above Twilight, she jumped on it a few times, making the heavy rain droplets fall and soak the mage from head to toe, making her look worse. Whoops, let me give you a patented rain blow dry. Flying around Twilight at extreme speeds, she created vacuum that made Twilight's hair poof up in crazy angels. Bhhph, wahahaha. Look at your hair. It's like all poof road choked past her laughter. Soon she was joined by the mage's assistant. I take it you're Rainbow Dash. The one and only, why you heard of me? She said, giving her Technicolor hair a slight flip. Aren't you the one that is supposed to keep the skies clear? What are you doing terrorizing people on the streets? Hey, I'm sorry that I knocked you over, but don't go making accusations like that. I would never do anything that would endanger anyone of this town. Twilight was slightly taken aback by the force and devotion in her words, so Spike asked the obvious question. You're the person in charge of getting the sky clear for the celebration. So why doesn't it look like there's any progress? Oh, that, if I wanted I could clear the skies in 10 seconds flat, I just need to practice for the Wanderbolts. They are coming to town tomorrow. Twilight had a smug look on her face. The Wanderbolts. Aha. The greatest flyers in Equestria. Oop. Alice, I highly doubt that they would take on anyone that couldn't keep the skies clear for one lousy day. Some annoyance leaked into Rainbow Dash's voice. Look, as I said, I can clear the skies in 10 seconds. Flat. Twilight narrowed her eyes. Prove it. Off like a bolt of Technicolor lightning, RD shot from one cloud to the next, demolishing them one by one until exactly 10 seconds later she landed in front of the two slack-jawed people. I didn't even see her activate her wings. Yay, I'm awesome. I hope you like the show. Still, I feel bad about messing up your hair, so I'll take you to someone who is just as fashionable as I am awesome. Her name is Rarity. She is in town hall decorating. Thanks, but we have things that we need to check on before anything. Spike, where do we need to go next? Actually, we need to check on decorations with a mage named Rarity. Her face dropping into a really position, Twilight accepted that even if she tried she wouldn't be able to shake the rainbow-haired angel. Oh, alright, lead the way, Rainbow Dash. Twilight had to admit that Rainbow Dash, although completely egotistical, seemed to know her way around the place rather well, and for that Twilight was so grateful. They arrived at the town hall sooner than if Twilight had tried to find her way. So that meant that she would have just that much more time to do her research on the elements of harmony. They walked through the building's front door and found that the inside had some of the most ornate decorations that either of the two visitors had seen before. Beautiful, Spike wistfully said. Yes, the decorations seem very well done. Not the decorations, her. Twilight took more notice of the woman that was levitating around some ribbons, muttering softly to herself. Hey Rarity, I need to call in the bad hair day favor you owe me. One moment darling, I'm in the zone as it were. She looked at a few more ribbons before deciding on one and tying it around a pillar. She stepped back to admire her work before turning to Twilight, Spike and Rainbow. Now what were you saying? Her simple question turned into a surprised shout as she saw Twilight. Oh darling, whatever happened to your coif? You mean my hair? Rarity nodded and Twilight answered with a simple point in Rainbow Dash's direction. Rarity sent a glare in the same direction. Well, we simply can't have this atrocity continue. Follow me to my boutique and I will amend my friend's mistake. Twilight was then dragged off by the fashionable girl. At the Carousel boutique. Sigh, why did I agree to this? Twilight asked herself. You and I both know that you needed to fix your hair and you shouldn't complain. Some girls beg me to style their hair. I am being very generous here. Rarity. There, I'm all finished. Now was that so hard? Rarity asked in a slightly mocking tone. Twilight peered into a nearby mirror. Her hair was exactly the way she liked to wear it. How did you know to style my hair this way? Twilight asked curiously. Well, with the way that it was cut, it could only be put up into two different styles effectively, and seeing as the way you dress, you don't seem like you are with the fashion curve, Rarity explained. Twilight shrugged off the backhanded comment. So that meant that the latest style in Canterlot was not what you went for, and that left only the one that you are wearing now. Although I wonder what it would have looked like in another color. Twilight glanced at her watch and needed to do a double take. It stated that the time was mid-afternoon. Twilight, knowing that there was still much to do, tried to leave as politely as possible. Giving the excuse that she still needed to check in on how the music for the celebration was coming along. Rainbow, bored with the single-word responses from the smitten convergent, none of which related to the conversation at hand, moved over to the purple-haired beauty. What are you two broads talking about? RD asked playfully. Twilight explained how she and Spike needed to leave soon, some slight annoyance leaking into her voice at having to explain herself to the rainbow-color-haired angel. RD took on a thinking pose as she hovered in the air, her energy wings allowing her to defy gravity. In an instant she adopted a concerned demeanor. You don't mean that you need to go see Fluttershy, do you? Twilight, suppressed by the usually brash girl, answered in the affirmative. How do you know? Twilight asked. Well, Fluttershy isn't usually in charge of that kind of stuff, it's usually Octavia or even Vinyl, but she mentioned something about her having something to do with the music in the festival. Twilight examined the aspiring Wonderbolt. Her posture hadn't changed much from before. Is there a problem? You seem tense. Twilight concluded. What? Oh no, nothing is wrong. Fluttershy just doesn't deal well with new people. She is extremely shy. RD explained. Twilight was slightly put off by the idea of not getting the last of her job done before her self-assigned deadline. But a solution suddenly popped into her head. Hey, you two seem to know Fluttershy. Can you come with me and maybe soothe over the idea of me being there? It would help me out so much. It didn't even take half a second for Rarity and Rainbow to decide. Well, of course I'm gonna go with you. I know that it would hurt Fluttershy as someone new came into town, was going to go meet her and her friends that knew about it didn't warn her first. Alright, but I would really like to get this done as soon as possible, so let's go. Forest path leading to Fluttershy's house. Twilight was walking along behind Rarity as she seemed to know the way to their destination better than she did. Silence reigned and all that could be heard was the soft sounds of nature. Rainbow Dash flew overhead, rustling the leaves and nearly knocking into Rarity. Until Rarity deftly stepped just out of the way. Not even sparing Rainbow another glance. Twilight decided to break the silence. So how do you two know each other? Rarity peered over her right shoulder at Twilight. We are both part of the town's oh what would you call us? Rarity worked her mind for a name, that is until Rainbow came up with one for her. We are almost like the first responder team for Appleville. Rarity giving a slight tilt of her head in acknowledgement before continuing. Yes, I do believe that is what best fits our little group. If anything interesting weird happens we are usually first ones on the scene. Rainbow wanted to throw her 2 bits in. Yay, Applejack and I are the heavy hitters. If anything, usually monsters try to harm the town, we're there to put them in their place. It's also why I live on the other side of town as AJ. Yes, although not everything requires brute force, Rainbow Dash. That's why Pinkie Pie and I are in the first responder group. We bring a certain fun and tact to other people visiting. I assume you have met Pinkie Pie. Twilight had to think for a moment. No, I don't think that I have. Rarity furrowed her brow in a concerted fashion. That's not like her. She's usually the first one to meet anyone who is new in town. Well, there was one girl that I met when I first arrived in town. But she just gasped and ran away. Just after Twilight explained, Rainbow Dash and Rarity relaxed some. Okay, now that sounds a little more like Pinkie. By this time the 4 people arrived at their destination. The thatched roof cottage was small but seemed to branch into different habitats for a variety of animals. Said animals were milling around the cottage. Most of them seemed to be drawn towards a tree where a dozen or more birds were perched. Another young woman was standing in front of the tree, seemingly conducting the birds through the song that they were singing. Just then one of the birds sang its tune horribly out of time, almost ruining the song. And with a voice akin to a summer breeze, the angel spoke. Oh, sorry everyone, stop. Sir, I know you are working very hard, but you are singing just a tinsy bit out of time, can I ask you to please adjust just a little bit? The pink-haired angel asked with the softness of a summer breeze. The bird nodded in the affirmative. Thank you, now let's try again. 1 2 3. Hi there. Twilight all but yelled. All the birds scattered and the young woman was startled so much that she jumped 3 feet into the air, activated her wings and shot off into the cottage. Well, okay then. Twilight turned towards the 2 Applevillians. Who were currently shaking their heads. Darling, that's precisely what we were trying to avoid. The high-class woman chastised. Twilight had the good nature to look embarrassed. The other 2 went back inside and tried to calm the shy angel. Now off look Fluttershy, who she won PH hurt you. The athletic girl was having trouble getting the struggling Fluttershy out of her house. I told you I don't want to meet any. The pink-haired girl took another look at the 2 Canterlot natives, but more importantly the smaller boy standing next to the mage. Asp. The shy girl smashed past Rainbow Dash, making her see pink butterflies. Is he a convergence? What type are you? Fluttershy asked the surprised boy. I have a dragon sealed within me. Although I don't know which one. Oh. A dragon meld. There aren't that many of them left after the Great Dragon War. Spike looked a little disheartened at that. Yeah, I know. Fluttershy saw her mistake and immediately looked back at the ground in shame. I'm sorry, it's just that I wish that I kind of want to be a convergent. Spike fixed her with an incredulous stare. What? Spike asked, his voice trembling slightly. Well, it's the closest someone could get to nature. I love being around animals and plant life, but it seems like nothing compared to actually sharing the same. Fluttershy was cut off by a soft humming coming from Twilight. The shy girl looked up to find that the mage was currently hugging the young boy as his face was turned away from the group and the humming progressed into a very soft singing that she couldn't make out. After a minute or two the singing stopped and was replaced by sniffles. Finally the teen faced back towards the group. His eyes were swollen red and bloodshot, his cheeks still had moisture still clinging to them. Twilight, still holding Spike, had a sad yet nostalgic look in her eyes. But then her face hardened as the pink-haired angel brought attention back onto herself. Is everything okay? Is everything okay? Twilight nearly spat at the girl. Her hair started to float around her in an ethereal wind. And her eyes started to glow. She felt something grab onto her hand, making Twilight snap out of it. Spike had silently approached and was now holding her hand in his. Spike gave her a grateful look and a fake smile before he motioned that he was going to go on ahead. Okay Spike, I'll catch up to you in a second. With that Spike meandered off leaving the four ladies behind. One Spike was a ways off. Celestia's archmage once again faced the group. Instead of the unbridled rage that had been there before, nothing but cold steel occupied her gaze. Then a burst of pure power exploded out of the girl, making it hard for all of the people around her to breathe. If it is not already, the music will be in order by the time the princess gets here. Now I have no more patience for you. And just like that the pressure and steely gaze vanished. Twilight turned away and started walking away towards her number one assistant, the one person who she was closer to than anyone else. Back with the girls. After Twilight left they were all still frozen in shock. Well I do think that we struck a nerve. Rainbow shot the prim girl a look. Really? I couldn't tell. Rainbow sighed and brought her left hand up to and then started to rub her neck. Well we can't just leave Twilight like this. Rainbow thought. Rainbow had actually started to consider the girl as one of her friends. But we can't just leave Fluttershy after all that. Taking a glance over to the other angel she saw her friend in the middle of some serious looking soul searching. Rainbow sighed again and activated her wings. The blue energy construct sprung to life. Rainbow started to float above the ground. Come on girls, we have some apologizing to do. Come here Rarity, I'll carry you. With that Rainbow took a hold of Rarity, Fluttershy activated her wings as well, and all three flew off to find and apologize to their, hopefully still, new friend. In Canterlot Castle. The Archangel of the Sun was watching over some of the festivities occurring in the city from her balcony in her private quarters. She watched with a smile on her face as her subjects danced, sang, drank and in general, enjoyed each other's company. But then a frown sullied her complexion. She hated the celebration. It was a reminder of her mistakes and a family that she may never have gotten back. 500 years ago she actually banned the festival. But her subjects just replaced it with an even worse one, Nightmare Night, a mockery of her sister's memory. Hardly anyone even remembers that there was even a Luna in the first place. Now there only remains the nightmare. But then her smile came back and this one shined with a brilliance that only her heavenly body, the sun, get your mind out of the gutter, could match. All of those things didn't matter anymore. And it was all thanks to that man. Her heart fluttered at the thought of the kind soul that had done so much for her and her sister and asked almost nothing in return. Speaking of which she should get a status report soon. And then soon after that she would start her disappearing act. All according to plan. Well it should be they had been planning this for the last 100 years. Activating a special spell that concealed herself, the Archangel teleported herself out to the royal gardens. She reappeared next to the statue of her parents Galaxia and Kronos. Another wave of her hand and a secret panel slid away to reveal a darkened staircase. After a short descent she came upon a door that was covered in markings that held no meaning to her. But she was told from a reliable source that they were the best security FanFiction arrays in existence. Celestia snorted in a very un-princess-like. Probably the only security FanFiction arrays in existence. She placed her hand on the center of the door. It glowed for a moment before several clicks and thunk signaled that the door was now open. Even a slight push it swung wide open. Revealing a humanoid form made of what looked like static. Hello Tia, the form said, taking a brief pause to let her acknowledge him. The plan is a go. I'll be seeing you soon. And just like that the apparition vanished. Celestia huffed. Sometimes I swear he just loves to waste my time. Twilight wasn't really mad at Fluttershy, well she was, but the angel probably didn't mean anything by what she said. And the way she went about scolding her was a bit harsh, but when someone hurt Spike intentionally or not, she would harm them. When Twilight finally caught up to Spike he seemed like he had finally gotten over what Fluttershy had said. Hey Spike, how you doing? Twilight asked in a small tone. Spike turned his head over to the most important girl in his life and sighed. Hey Twilight, I'm better now. Not good but better. Spike turned again and started walking back towards the town. I just want to find the library so we can learn about Nightmare Moon and the elements. Spike called over his shoulder. Twilight was soon following after him again, not wanting him to be out of her sight. Spike, wah. Hey Twilight, Spike, wait up. Twilight groaned and looked to the rainbow blur that was headed toward Spike and herself. This is not what we need right now. Twilight took a furtive glance at Spike. The young man had walked up to and positioned himself slightly behind her right side. He tried to hide it, but she knew him better than anyone. He was afraid and his eyes were haunting. As the rainbow blur got even closer, Twilight, not knowing what to expect, channeled energy to her inventum. The magic flowed smoothly into it and it set her hand alight with a purple aura. The angel arrived just as Twilight was about to cast a fire spell, just a warning shot of course, it would have barely singed her well, it wouldn't have been permanently scarring. Whoa there, I just came to apologize. Twilight registered the statement but didn't stand down, her magic ready to crack down on Rainbow like a whip if she so much as twitched in the wrong way. Spike tugged on Twilight's sweater, getting her attention. Keeping an eye on the opposing angel, Twilight looked at Spike. He shook his head and mouthed that it was okay. Hesitant at first, her instinct screaming at her to teleport this girl into the middle of a desert, she cut the flow of magic to her inventum. The ethereal glow faded from her hands. Seeing that Twilight wasn't going to immolate her, Rainbow landed and deactivated her wings. After a moment of awkward silence, Twilight gave a deep sigh and spoke up. It's not you who needs to apologize, while I may have overreacted, Fluttershy should be the one here, not you. Well, she would be, but she didn't know how well you'd react to her. She didn't want to make you any more angry, and guessing by how you were about to blast me out of the sky, it was a smart move. Looking sheepish at the very likely accusation. Rainbow, seeing that Twilight had calmed some, turned and whistled loudly. The following rustle of branches and leaves signaled the entrance of Rarity and Fluttershy, who was using Rarity as support. Rarity double-checked that the coast was clear before nudging the pink-haired girl forward. Fluttershy flinched slightly before taking a few tentative steps forward before freezing up. After a few more supportive words from Rarity, Fluttershy took a deep breath before advancing once more. While walking to the other end of the clearing, her pace quickened. When she finally reached the young boy, she flung her arms around him, tears rolling down her face. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She repeated the words over and over until it was incoherent against her sobbing, gripping to Spike like her life depended on it. Spike was absolutely frozen. He hadn't expected this kind of reaction from the girl hanging on him. Her tears soaking through his shirt snapped him out of his stupor. He gently wraps his right arm around her back and his left strokes her pink tresses. It's okay, it's okay. I'm not angry. Spike tried to assure her. But the girl was inconsolable. So Spike let her cry on his shoulder for the better part of 20 minutes. The other three girls waiting patiently. When her sobs dulled and her breathing became more even, she finally spoke in a tiny voice. I'm so sorry, I am a terrible person, I must have brought up some terrible memories. Spike looked surprised. How did? Spike began to ask but was interrupted by Rainbow. I had a close friend in flight school. She is a Harpy class convergent and she told me of some of the prejudice that she endured. I shared some of those stories with Fluttershy on the way here. Spike gave the face before returning to Fluttershy. Don't worry about it, I already forgave you. If someone telling me that they like what I am could get to me, well, Spike stopped his point given. Fluttershy gave Spike a grateful smile, her eyes puffy from crying. Spike returned the smile before turning to Twilight. Hey Twilight, can they tag along to the library? Spike asked. Twilight gave him a skeptical look and opened her mouth to answer, but before she could answer in the negative, Spike interrupted. Hey, even you need to admit that 5 sets of eyes are better than 2. Twilight's mouth snapped shut. While she did not particularly like anybody working with her, except Spike, a library was a big place. She would get things done more efficiently if they helped, so she relented. Oh, alright, they can come with. The group had been walking back to town at a semi-leisurely pace. Along the way, Fluttershy had gotten Spike to open up about his childhood. Most of the party was enraptured by the life story of the young man. Of course, that left Twilight to lead them through the rolling paths of the forest. When the group moved over a particularly steep crest of a hill, Twilight spotted something quite out of place in the forest's hodgepodge of greens and browns. The thing, whatever it was, is bright strawberry pink. And it seemed to be spring-loaded as it bounced up and down at a consistent rate. This tuft of pink also grabbed Spike's attention. And one by one the others in the group turned, looked and stared at what they saw. They all shared a silent agreement that the pink blob was more than enough reason to make a detour. As they approached, the blob turned into a woman. The striking pink was actually her long, messy hair. Which seemed to have a mind of its own as the girl bounced. But its freedom did not last as it was all caught and tied up in a ponytail with 2 curly strands framing her face. All of it was done in one physics-defying blur of motion. Seeing her success, she smiled the brightest smile that could exist. If you look directly at it, you would most likely go blind before dying of cuteness. Finally she turned and saw the group. She waved animatedly at them before disappearing. Hi. Twilight nearly made the altitude record for highest jump unassisted. Unfortunately gravity is a cruel maiden. Once she crawled out of the Twilight-sized hole in the ground, she brushed herself off to look up into two deep pools of blue. The unintelligible ramble was interrupted by a hand slapping over her mouth, compliments of Rainbow Dash. But this did little to deter the pink ball of energy as she kept talking into the offending hand. Twilight turned to Rainbow only to see a bored face. This obviously wasn't the first time that this had happened. Is she always like this? Twilight asked. Yeah, pretty much, it's just her own special brand of crazy. Rainbow rotated her free index finger around her ear in a familiar fashion. By this time the unintelligible mumbling stopped, leaving the pinkette with wide and excited eyes. The exited girl lifted a hand and pointed to the sky. MHP, thump him. She tried to mumble through the hand before Rainbow lifted it away from her mouth. Pinky let loose a squeal before pointing to the sky again. He's finally here. Yay. They all looked to the sky to only see the first star of the night sky appearing. Pinky. There's no one there. And I doubt any angles are going to be this far away from any of the parties. Pinky stared at Dashi like she was the one acting crazy. Of course he isn't an angel. He'd be closer to being a demon. But mostly people know him as the man on the moon. Wait, that's not right. Anyway, he's here. She pointed to one of the stars. Pinky, that isn't. Wait, is it getting bigger? Rainbow Dash questioned. This drew the attention of the rest of the group. And yes, the star was getting rapidly bigger. Twilight spoke up. I don't recognize that star, and I've studied some of the most extensive star maps in existence. It was true Twilight, being the prodigy of Celestia, had access to almost all of the academic material she needed. This only encouraged her antisocial behavior. Well, it's obviously there, so what is it? Rainbow asked. The whole time the light getting bigger. Then a sudden look of dread smashed onto Twilight's expression. It's not getting bigger. Well then what is it doing? It's getting closer, run for cover. Twilight said in an oddly quiet voice given the situation. Wah. Run for cover. Twilight all but screamed at the group. The three girls and Spike ran into a nearby ditch and made them as small as possible. Twilight stayed behind, she gathered her significant magical reserves and let it flow into her inventum. The air around the ring started to vibrate. She brought her hand up to her chest, then made a diagonal slashing motion with her hand. An opaque dome-like purple barrier flowed up into the sky. But it wasn't around her. Twilight calculated that the area where the cosmic rock would land, right next to, if not in, a small pond. So she focused on containing the damage. She would let the falling rock pass through the barrier, which would close behind it, containing the blast. Quickly she made several more, if smaller barriers within the first. And just in time. The falling star passed through the first barrier with no resistance. But it seemed to start slowing down, but just slightly. Passing through the insurance barriers, the rock splashed down in the lake, instantly vaporizing it. The resulting explosion of steam and molten rock completely annihilated the first two barriers. Twilight wasn't channeling her magic through those though. She was concentrating the flow on the last three. When the explosion met the third to last barrier, Twilight strained, pouring her pure energy into the barrier. The explosion broke that one, but it lost most of its energy. But it still had some fight. The second to last barrier strained as the blast hit it. But Twilight held firm. Blood dripped from her nose and her vision became blurry. The explosion faded completely and both Twilight and the barriers dropped. Spike sprinted out from the ditch and slid to the ground next to her. Barely catching her before she hit the ground. Quickly regaining consciousness, Twilight quickly recovered. Although she was drowsy from the sheer volume of magic she used. I'm okay now, Spike. Don't worry. Twilight said, weak Rainbow speed over. Whoa, little man, did you know how fast you just moved? Rainbow Dash asked, impressed by the speed at which he moved. What do you mean? Spike questioned. Dude, it looked like you teleported to Twilight. I had trouble keeping my eye on you. Spike looked at his hands, awed by himself. His usual skin, which is made up of microscopic scales, seems to have melded together and hardened into larger scales that glinted in the light of the dying sun. But, whatever it was that happened to him, it was fading. His arm going back to its previous form. Whoa, that's new. Spike said breathlessly. Well, I'm going to go look for the thing that tried to blow half of Appleville of the face of the planet. With that, the speedy angle was gone. Spike leaned down and set Twilight gently on the ground. Before sitting next to her. Letting his sister-mother figure lean on him. Why, did you know that I could do that? Have I ever done anything like that before? Twilight, still drowsy, lifted her eyelids for a moment to smile at Spike. I'm sorry, buddy. I don't know what that was. But I promise. When we see the princess next we can ask. Okay. Spike wasn't satisfied in the least. He had so many questions and not a single answer. However, a certain athletic angel ripped Spike from his thoughts. Hey, we have a problem. I think someone was in the barrier when that thing crashed. Only got a quick look before coming back over here, but what I did see wasn't good. Twilight's eyes shot open. Adrenaline pumping her full of energy. What? Twilight practically screamed. Stumbling to her feet, she put her hand into her pocket and pulled out a shiny green pill. Popping it into her mouth, she bit down and swallowed. Spike, what's Twilight doing? Rainbow asked the young man. When Spike replied, he had a worried tone in his voice. That's a synchronizer, simply it bolsters a mage's mana reserve by making their body more in sync with the natural ley lines of the world. It only works temporarily and had risks, but Twilight needs it right now if she wants to help. Twilight focused her mana into her legs and sprinted into the blast zone. All the while thinking. No, I trapped someone inside with that explosion, they could be hurt or worse. Wait, I remember checking for any life signs, and the only things were some bugs and plant life. She shook her head and continued running. That doesn't matter now, there's someone hurt and I can help. It didn't take her long to reach the center of the crater, but when she did she saw what, or rather whom, Rainbow Dash was talking about. There was a man sprawled out in the crater. He was laying on his front so she couldn't see his face. His hair was a spiky sun-kissed blonde that only reached his neck. Most of his body was disguised by a burnt orange almost red cloak that seemed to have black flames licking at the bottom. And he wore black sandals with open toes. But something that Twilight noticed truly astonished her. There wasn't a single scratch on the. She flipped him onto his back. Only to find that the rest of his clothes weren't so lucky. Tattered remains of a once white shirt did nothing to hide the man's chest from view, revealing a blue-green crystal hanging on a string. Unfortunately, his pants shared a similar fate to that of his shirt. Pushing down her growing blush, Twilight checked the rest of him for injuries by running a healing spell over his form. Satisfied that he was okay, she allowed herself to relax a bit. Able to now take a closer look at the man, she got a good look at his face. He was quite attractive with a slightly round face. His bangs framed his face. Those bangs brushed by the man's most unique feature, the almost whisker-like marks on each cheek. Twilight, intrigued by the features, wondered if they were real or not. She very carefully brought her hand up to the unconscious man's face and stroked one of his cheeks. "How can I help you?" The voice startled Twilight so much that she nearly jumped out of her skin. "Whoa there, calm down." A pair of hands softly grabbed hers and a warm, soothing feeling swept through Twilight. "There, isn't that better? Now what's your name?" Twilight's head was in a serene cloud. Nothing else mattered, just the calm. The feeling left just as suddenly as it came. Twilight needed to suppress a whine of disappointment as she came down from her high. What?" A low chuckle emanated from the man. "I'm sorry, but I need your help." Twilight snapped out of her trance enough to at least look at the man. What met her were the most striking blue eyes that she had ever seen. What do you need? Do you know where I am? I don't think I've seen this crater before." "Oh, well, this is or what used to be the fields outside of Appleville. Now are you sure you are Al?" And what country is that town in?" the blonde interrupted. Twilight answered his question just a little bit irritated. "It's in Equestria, now I need to make sure." "Never heard of it." The blonde interrupted a second time. An almost undetectable smirk on his face at seeing the girl in front of him so miffed. "What do you mean you haven't heard of it? Have you been living in a cave your whole life?" Twilight spat through clenched jaws. "Maybe, I don't really know." "Okay, that was it. The pesky blonde is getting some more injuries today." Twilight reared her fist back, ready to strike. Wait, I'm serious, I don't know where you are talking about, I don't remember much of anything," he said quickly to protect himself from feminine wrath. Twilight was suspicious but decided to play along for now. "Really? That's just a little hard to believe, prove it." Twilight spent the next few minutes questioning the man, but all she was able to find out was his name, Naruto. "I just don't get it." The rest of the gang finally caught up to Twilight and the now known Naruto. "How can someone just forget everything about their self but still remember their name?" Rainbow Dash asked incessantly. Her only response, however, was a half-heated shrug of Naruto's shoulders. "It seems fishy, is all. Are you a spy?" Rainbow half asked and half accused, hovering only inches away from his face. Naruto adopted a hurt expression. "Why are you even asking that? I promise that I hold only the best intentions in my heart." Rainbow moved back slightly, her expression of suspicion unflinching, as if she was trying to find some unseen fault in the man. And he stared right back. She stayed like that until she gave an approving nod. "He's cool." She gave him a wide smile and offered her closed fist to him. "The name's Rainbow Dash. And I'm the coolest person in all of Appleville." Naruto bumped his fist against hers. "Naruto, it's nice to meet you, Dash-san." Naruto introduced himself to the rest of the group. His lack of appropriate dress quite obvious to the girls, but especially to one fashionista in particular. After Dash was Spike, he and Naruto got along like a house on fire. When it got to Rarity, Naruto displayed manners rarely found outside of nobility. "Darling, you simply must allow me to design you some new clothes for you." "No, I'm fine, thank you. I don't have anything to pay you with anyway." "Oh, but I must insist, I'll even do it free of charge. We can't have you walking around in just your cloak now, can we?" Naruto smiled at the generous woman, his fox-like grin shone like the sun. Of course, Pinky being Pinky could hardly wait and practically jumped Naruto. "Hi, my name is Pinkamina Diane Pai, but all my friends call me Pinky and everyone is my friend, so everyone just calls me Pinky. Will you be my friend?" "You don't remember anything, so must not have any, so that makes me sad and I hate being sad." It didn't even take Naruto a second to process it all and respond. "Hi Pinky, my name's Naruto and of course I'll be your friend. Yeah, I guess I feel a bit lonely, but nothing I can't handle, so please don't be sad." The rest of the group blinked while Pinky bounced happily. Glad to finally have someone that can keep up with her. But his reaction to Pinky paled in comparison to his reaction to Fluttershy. Fluttershy hid behind her hair as Naruto's gaze swept over her. Naruto gasped, tears falling from his eyes. He began to speak, but his voice was shaky and hoarse. Hina, is that you?" He reached out to grasp her, but he seemed to snap out of his trance for a short while before he collapsed to his knees and clutched his head in obvious pain. But as quickly as the pain came, it disappeared, leaving Naruto to right himself. He blinked his blue eyes a few times as if to clear out some haze. When he turned back to the group of girls, he found them staring at him like he had just fallen from the sky. "Wait. Is there something on my face?" When they just continued to stare at him, he huffed in annoyance. "Come on, what's up?" Twilight stepped forward a bit and places her hand on Naruto's shoulder. "I think that you had a flashback, you started acting strange before you seized up. Are you okay?" Naruto raised an eyebrow. "I have no idea what you are talking about, are you okay?" Naruto shook his head and waved them off dismissively. "Anyway, it doesn't matter. Isn't there something that we needed to do at this?" Twilight's eyes widened and she let out a gasp. "The library, Nightmare Moon, how could she forget? I need to get to the library and quick." Twilight sprinted off in the direction of town, leaving the others behind. "Twilight, wait up!" Spike desperately called after her before running off as well. Pinky bounced around happily. "Ooh, oh, I didn't know she was so excited to get to the party I have set up in the library. But wait, it was supposed to be a surprise for her. How did she find out about it?" Pinky asked. Naruto's head perked. "A party, that sounds fun. Hey, can I go to that party of yours?" Pinky rounded on him with a megawatt smile. "Of course, silly, everyone is invited." "Well, come on, let's go." Naruto was then escorted, dragged by the arm, towards town. "Now you just hold on. I cannot in good conscience allow for Naruto to go anywhere when he is so scantily clad. Please bring him to my shop, Pinky." "Okie dokie Loki." Naruto shook off his surprise before yelling. "Hey, I don't want to go, don't I get a vote in this?" "I'm terribly sorry darling, but no you don't." "Fine, but I get to keep the cloak." Rarity, seemingly happy with the deal, went along with the Pink Sugar Rush and the blonde. Before noticing Rainbow Dash along with Fluttershy didn't come along. "Are you two not going to come with to the boutique?" "Nah, I got to talk to Shy for a minute. See you all at the party though." Rarity shrugged and turned to continue following the odd duo. Not that I mind Rainbow Dash, because I don't mind that is, but what is it that you wanted to talk about, if you don't mind my asking?" Rainbow turned to Fluttershy with a serious face on. "Have you ever seen that guy before? Because he seemed to know you." "Oh, I'm sorry but I don't know anything. Today was the first time that I've met him." Rainbow adopted a thinking pose. This was impressive considering she is hovering 2 feet off of the ground. "I think that he is hiding something. There are too many things about him that we don't know. Like how was he able to survive that blast, and if he lost his memories, why did he have such a strong reaction to you?" "Oh, I'm sure there is a good answer to your questions, Rainbow Dash. We just need to be patient." Fluttershy responded with a kind smile. "Yeah, I guess, but I still want to try something. Can I count on your help, Fluttershy?" Fluttershy let her head sink to the ground, he bangs falling to cover her eyes. "Oh, I'm sure I'd just let you down, Rainbow Dash. I'm not as strong or as brave as you." Rainbow dropped to the ground, put her hand under Fluttershy's chin and lifted her head. "Don't worry, I believe in you and I know you can help me." Fluttershy gave her a small smile. "Okay, what do you need me to do?" It was a peaceful afternoon in Appleville, the sun was setting, the birds were chirping, and manly screams were coming from the carousel boutique. "Ooh. Get away from me, you perv." Naruto squealed in a very unmanly fashion. "Oh, do grow up, and I am not a pervert. How dare you accuse a lady of such a thing?" Rarity sighed exasperatedly. I don't care what you call it. You were feeling me up. Naruto called down from his new position in the rafters. Hardly, I was taking your measurements, Naruto. I need them to make your clothes. Now get back over here. No, I refuse. You are just going to measure me again. Rarity had enough of this foolishness. Her hand and Naruto were enveloped in a glow before Naruto sailed out of the rafters. I promise I would be more gentle. Rarity said reassuringly, but Naruto just scratched at the air trying to anchor himself in it. But to no avail. And why is that supposed to assure me? He asked her. His feet finally planted on the ground. Just hold still and this will all be over with. You big baby. She turned around to get some sample cloth. And a measuring tape. But when she turned around Naruto had all new cloths. But how did you replace your clothes? She questioned him. I'm not sure, all I heard was something about a party, a pink blur and a lot of movement. He stated, slightly dizzy. Wow, never mind, it was probably Pinky getting a little impatient. I'm not going to question it. She said as she moved away from him, her work already done for her. That's it. Just it's Pinky and you don't care. Aren't you curious as to how she did that? Oh, of course I am, darling, but all those who have tried to question Pinky logic don't always keep all of their marbles. I will eventually figure out that living sugar rush. Good luck. You'll need it. Rarity finished putting away her sewing supplies and disappeared into the back to change. I'll be right back, darling, just going to freshen up a bit before the party. Naruto found a quite nice red fainting couch and was about to fall back into it when it was wrapped in a magical aura and seemingly disappeared. His arms flailed around to find some sort of purchase in the area around him, but to no avail. He was already halfway down towards the ground. Back, meet floor. Floor, meet back. A slight groan escaped his mouth as he stared up at the ceiling. He couldn't bring himself to care that everything in Rarity's shop seemed to want to betray him. First the rafters not giving him any refuge from the grabby woman and now disappearing couches. The floor seemed to be comfy enough and he decided it would be a good place to stay until Rarity came back. Thankfully it didn't take much longer. I'm sorry about that, darling. But she paused after seeing his predicament. What are you doing? She questioned. You didn't already try question Pinky, did you? Well, I might have. Coaches usually don't disappear, do they? He pondered aloud. Rarity flushed in slight embarrassment. Oh, I'm sorry, darling. I just had a bit of a fashion freak out. And just dragged the couch to me without thinking. She said dolefully. Naruto, however, just got up and brushed himself off. It's no problem, well, it wasn't exactly comfortable, it's not like I was hurt or anything. He said, smiling at her. Rarity returned the smile before turning away. Well, what are we waiting for? We have a soiree to attend. Both left the boutique and headed towards the large oak in the center of town. At the party. Loud pulsating music filled the air. Its tempo fast and the bass heavy. Pinky had gone all out with this party. There were party games, punch, good music, provided by the town's very own DJ PON3, and most important, the pink-haired woman herself was there. She flitted from one conversation to another. Making sure everyone was having a good time. So when it was about 10 minutes after she gave Naruto his little present that the door to the library swung open, she expected Naruto and Rarity to walk through. She was pleasantly surprised to be wrong. Who had walked through the door were new girls she has never seen before. Both of them looked to be around 20 years old. They both walked together, hand in hand, into the back corner of the room and sat on the benches for anyone who wanted a break from the partying. The one on the left had light blue locks that just barely tickled her pale white shoulders. She had a beautiful complexion that could only be matched by royalty and her companion. Her dress was a sleek midnight blue and simple gown that flowed easily. On her hand was an inventum. It was a silver band with a large black diamond inset from the inside out. More of the same diamond were set into the band. She had eyes that were filled with yearning. She watched the other people as they danced and played games. You could see the excitement radiating off of her. But as soon as she was about to get up, she mellowed and settled into her chair. She squeezed her companion's hand gently. Before letting go and retreating into herself. Her companion looked sad and guilty for a moment before resolve set into her features. She scanned the crowd with eyes that were cold and calculating. The companion of the regal-looking woman was a stunning beauty. She was garbed in black leather armor that was augmented by strange metal plates. They were strange because they didn't seem to be made from any metal that Pinky had seen before, and she grew up in a family of well-known blacksmiths and miners. The inventum on her finger is two black bands loosely intertwined, leading to an ornate depiction of a nightshade flower. A clear diamond resting in the center of its petals. She was in a perpetual state of tenseness, always on guard, slitted blue-green eyes scanning the crowd. Pinky, being the hostess, went over to the pair to welcome them to the party. When she was about 5 feet away, the pinkette started waving at the armored woman, whose eyes were locked onto her as soon as she started to come over. The woman responded with a lopsided grin that looked like she hadn't smiled in a long time and somehow forgot how. "Hi, my name is Pinkie Pie. But everyone around here calls me Pinkie," she said as she extended a hand towards the woman, who seemed to relax. My name is Nyx," she said as she extended her hand to Pinkie. But Pinkie dove past her outstretched hand and gave Nyx a gargantuan hug. "Help me, Crescent," Nyx said, begging for relief. After a few seconds of the constriction, a small white spirit floated out of Nyx and wobbled around. "Ooh, oh pretty," the bubblegum constrictor said happily. Next to the two ladies, the regal woman sat and giggled at the antics of the two. This turned out to be a mistake as Pinkie dropped Nyx and slightly turned her head, only a shine spot visible where her eye would be. "Next hug target locked," the pink devil said to herself. "What" was all that she got out before all air left her lungs. Forcefully evacuated by the pink earthling. "Air, I need air," she said. The pink party planner let go. After a moment the two had regained their breaths. "That was certainly lively greeting," said the regal woman. "Lively isn't the word I would have used to describe it." Nyx mumbled, only to receive a ribbing from the regal mare. "I'm Crescent Moon, by the way. I don't think I had time to introduce myself before your greeting," said the woman now known as Crescent Moon. "Oh, I love that name. But can I call you Crescent or Moony or Chrissy?" Pinkie asked in her rapid-fire way of talking. Crescent balked for a moment before responding. "I think Crescent would be fine." It was then that the doors to the library burst open and Naruto appeared on the other side, legs still extended from his entrance. "Hey party animals," he yelled as he entered with his arms extended. The crowd shouted jovially back. Vinyl Scratch, sensing the change in the crowd's energy, spun a record on her finger before planting it on the track. The beat of the music increased and the bass deepened. Crescent and Nyx rolled their eyes at the newcomer's antics. He spotted Pinkie and walked to her. "Hey, Pinkie. Thanks for the new cloths," he projected over the now louder music. She giggled in return. "No problem, it was taking you way too long to get here," she said and gave him a regular hug, which he returned. The two women bristled slightly. Naruto saw this and he winked at them. This subsequently made them even more irritated. "Pinks, who are your friends here?" Naruto asked with barely restrained smugness that Pinkie completely ignored. "Oh, this is Crescent Moon and Nyx. They didn't say where they come from or if they like kumquats or not," she said. Naruto smiled foxily at them and bowed to them at the waist. "Good evening, Lady Moon and Nyx. It is certainly nice to see you this evening." The two relaxed at his politeness. However, this didn't last long as Naruto pinky-eyed behind them and put his arms over their shoulders. His smile expanding as he did so. Crescent and Nyx both jumped at the sudden intrusion of space. A tick mark appeared on Nyx's head and she took a swing at the offending blonde. "Unhand us, you fiend." Her fist connected with his face and he went flying away, eventually becoming a heap of battered flesh in the corner. "That's so cold, Nyx-chan," he said, getting back up and standing next to the trio. As he nursed his, now growing, bump. Across the room, a certain rainbow-haired woman spotted her target and quickly and quietly moved in. She was about to tackle her target when his ear perked and he suddenly ducked down. "Oh hey, a bit." The rainbow blur shot over him and into a pink blob of hair, taking both to the ground. "Hey Dashi. I was wondering where you were." Pinkie emoted when she recovered from being an emergency stop. The speedster was still a little dazed. "Well, when I thought." The angel shook her head to clear her blurry eyes. "Oh hey Pinkie, sorry I hit ya. I was trying to," she trailed off as she noticed the sun-kissed man listening intently. A fox-like grin plastered on his face. "Do to show Fluttershy here a new trick that I can do indoors, ain't that right, Shy?" She gestured to behind Naruto. Said woman nodded her head. As she suddenly found the floor very interesting. Naruto heard the name and stiffened. The grin that previously occupied his face was now replaced by one of complete neutrality. Rainbow saw the sudden change in his demeanor and blew a strand of her hair to the side. Fluttershy saw this and her eyes widened. A signal. "Oh, what do I do? I don't want to disappoint Rainbow, but I don't want to." Fluttershy's brain was moving at 1,000 miles an hour. But her body began to move on its own accord. Naruto saw Rainbow blow her hair out of her eyes. And a moment later he felt a hand tapping at his shoulder. Dread filled his stomach as he slowly turned to see the shy angel that stood in front of him. It took considerable effort to keep his face neutral. "Yes. How may I help you, miss?" he said in a monotone. Hearing the voice, she snapped out of her thoughts to meet the face of Naruto. She stuttered, still not fully prepared for this. "Yes?" Naruto asked the frightened girl. It was killing him to be so dispassionate towards anyone. Especially someone who was so much like her. Fluttershy was able to compose herself enough to formulate a sentence. "Did I do something to make you angry? I mean, if it doesn't bother you if I ask." She still didn't seem all too confident in herself, but a nod and a discreet thumbs up from Rainbow was enough encouragement for her to not run away from the whole situation. Not to mention that part of her that seemed to call out for the blonde. It was faint, but it was like a small part of her just sang whenever she was near him. "No, you have done nothing wrong. I, however, must go." He looked over to Pinkie Pie who, like everyone else there, was confused at the normally kind and warm blonde being so cold toward such a kind person. "I will be back in time for the sun-raising ceremony." After that he left the dance floor and went up the stairs to the bedroom. Crescent Moon and Nyx's brows furrowed in worry. But their faces quickly reverted back to normal. They turned to the small group. "Is that normal for him?" After the man had left, Fluttershy went over to Rainbow. Well. Did I do well, Rainbow?" she asked with uncertainty. She didn't like how she tricked him into revealing, well, nothing. Rainbow frowned, she didn't get as much as she would have liked. But it was enough for now. "Eh, Shy, you did good," she said in a distracted tone. "Naruto, it would seem, isn't all he appears to be." Twilight retreated to the library's bedroom as soon as she could escape from the pink-haired menace. Spike chooses not to follow her and stayed with the girls they had just met. "Ooh. All I wanted to do was research the elements of harmony. But I guess that won't happen now that the library is infested with crazy." Twilight yelled frustratedly. She went over to the bed and jumped in only to land on something that made a ooh of sound. Twilight quickly scrambled out of the bed and saw Naruto clutching his stomach with a slight grimace on his face. "That was definitely not what I would imagine when a girl jumps into bed with me," he joked. Twilight's face heated up at the comment. Naruto got out of the bed too, and his feet took him to the other side of the room where he sat and propped himself up on the wall. "By the way, I think I saw a book on the elements over there," he said and pointed to a book on the nightstand. Twilight's eyes widened and she levitated the book over to herself. She flipped through the book until she saw a chapter titled Whereabouts and Speculation. She flipped the page and to her annoyance the pages about where they were last seen were ripped out of the book. "Great, just great," the mage mumbled to herself. The next pages yielded no information on the element's location but did have some good information. To whoever may find this tome know that great evils and darkness grow more powerful than the Princess of Light. But you must only ask for the power and might of the sage who watches over us every night. The Apprentice Starswirl. Twilight's eyes widened. This was one of Starswirl's earliest prophecies. Many believed that it came true when Celestia banished Nightmare Moon to the moon. And that the man on the moon, also known as the Sage of the Night Sky, gave Celestia the power to defeat her. But Celestia always told her that wasn't what it was about. But she would never elaborate further. Twilight shook her head. Well, this was all interesting, it didn't get her closer to finding the elements of harmony. She felt someone watching her and looked behind her to see Naruto looking at the book over her shoulder with a mildly interested demeanor. Twilight froze from the proximity to the blonde. A tint of red dusting her cheeks. "Shame someone tore out those pages," he said. Twilight nodded her head, not trusting her voice. Luckily Spike came into the room just then and saved her from mild embarrassment. "Come on, Twilight. It's almost time for the sunrise," he said. Twilight peered at the clock on the wall and saw that Spike was right. "Well, we better get go," she was about to say until she saw that Naruto was no longer there. "But Twilight, where did he go?" Spike asked as one second the blonde was there and the next he wasn't. Twilight felt a headache coming on and pinched the bridge of her nose. "I don't know, Spike. Let's just go," she said as she got up from the bed and the duo strolled to the town hall. Naruto swirled into being behind town hall. There stood Crescent Moon and Nyx. "Hello Luna, Nyx, how was your night?" he asked cheerfully. They both smiled at him, clearly happy with the celebration. "I'm so happy people stay up all night for a celebration. 'Twas a wonderful occasion," Luna said while Nyx's joy was not as overt, but anyone that knew her would know how happy she was. "It was alright. That pink hair psycho nearly killed me." The mood darkened slightly. "Master, why did you act so cold to Fluttershy?" "As far as I could tell she did nothing wrong," Nyx asked, the concern in her voice palpable. Naruto's face fell and his bangs covered his eyes. "She did nothing wrong, she just reminded me of a mistake I made long ago," Naruto said somber-like. He perked up and clapped his hands together. "Well, let's get this show on the road. I know you haven't mastered the resonance form yet, so it'll help you along with this one. Don't want to level the town now, do we?" he asked. He aced an arm on each of them. "Soul resonance is commencing." Soul resonance complete. Both Luna and Nyx let out a sigh of relief. The resonance of the soul was something akin to addicting. To be so close to someone, the feeling was indescribable. Bodily resonance commencing. Both of their bodies began to emit a soft glow that grew into a blinding light. Body resonance complete. The glow disappeared. Like a light that was switched off. What remained there was one being. A being that had been feared for its destructive power and cunning. Hello Nightmare Moon, how are you feeling this lovely night? Naruto asked with a fox-like smile. What if Juubi Naruto was in My Little Pony end here and thanks for watching my video till the end.